Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to give everyone a few minutes to join us. Thank you for joining us today. We'll get started shortly. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the Fairfax Cryobank webinar on how to choose your donor. Just a few pieces of housekeeping for today's webinar. First item is that today's call will be recorded. All of the slides and everything will be recorded and sent out via email today. If you're not able to join the full webinar, no worries, you'll get a copy soon. And the second item of business is just regarding our questions today. As you have questions during today's presentation, do not hesitate to put them into the chat in the webinar tool. We will have a Q&A session at the end. So today we are joined by our lead presenter, Christina Garcia. She is our Cryobank manager. Handling questions and answers with her will be Doreen Bond, our manager of client services, and myself, the moderator, Morgan Barker. So take it away, Christina.
All right, thanks, Morgan. Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar, How to Choose Your Donor. I'd like to go over our webinar goals today. First, I'll explain the donor categories, then the donor brand codes and specimen types, donor products and information, and I'll do a live demonstration for the donor search. Then we'll talk about the forums and the resources. Once we've completed the webinar, we'll do a Q&A with our client services manager, Doreen Bond. All right, before we dive into the webinar goals, let's talk about getting started. Normally, we have two types of clients who are ready to do a procedure and clients who are just beginning their journey. Either way, Fairfax Cryobank wants to make sure that the process in choosing a donor is as easy as possible because this is an exciting time in your life and you're about to make an important decision. So we want to be there to help you. If you haven't done so already, we do recommend talking to a medical professional to help guide you in your fertility goals. Most likely, they'll let you know if they have different preferences for you too. Next, complete the terms of use, the TOU. You can sign this electronically on our website, or you can download the PDF. We basically say to do this beforehand because when you choose a donor, you'll already have this taken care of and you can go right away and do the ordering process. All right, the fun part. Sit down and create a list of characteristics that you value and are important to you. A lot of people do value physical traits, ethnic background, personality, education, donor categories, etc. There's also over 200 donors to choose from. This number actually fluctuates daily, so you can always check on our website. Plus, we also have new donors always being added. I wanted to add to this as well with our marketing team and our sites. They're diligently working on recruiting donors all the time and trying to diversify our donor pool. They're working on different strategies, but we are also open to any ideas as well. All right, so on to donor categories. We have non-ID, ID, and non-ID to ID donors. Non-ID donors are donors that did not agree to release identifying information to the donor conceived person, the DCP, also known as your adult children or offspring. This donor probably felt like at the time of his contract that he just wanted to remain private. ID donors, on the other hand, agreed to release identifying information to the DCP when they turn 18 years old or older. As of March 2020, Fairfax accepted ID donors only. So we basically made this personal decision because we wanted to evolve with the industry and also with society, and also give DCPs a chance to know like who their donor is. So for this case, the DCP must be registered. I'll explain a little bit more detail at the end of this webinar. Non-ID to ID donors. So California passed legislation to allow non-ID donors to change to ID. This actually began in January 2020. It's not mandatory for all non-ID donors. However, we do ask them annually if they do or would like to would become an ID donor. We don't change their status category. They'll remain as non-ID on the website, but we will update it in the summary profile, which I'll show you soon. When the DCP requests ID information at 18 plus years old, the process will also be the same as the ID process. All right, so again, I'll go over that at the end as well. Overall, we do leave this decision up to you, and we will support whatever preference you like. Okay, next, we have the donor brand codes. So choosing a sperm bank is just as important as choosing a donor. You would want to take certain factors into consideration, like if they are FDA regulated, maybe their reputation, infectious and genetic disease testing and screening. Sperm quality is a popular one, price, etc. We do have 3 great sperm banks. Our main sperm bank is obviously Fairfax Cryobank. We do have Pacific Reproductive Services, which Fairfax acquired in 2016. This location is based in our Pasadena location in California. Cryogenic Laboratories, Fairfax Cryobank acquired CLI in 2002 and is located in Minnesota. All of these sperm banks are under the family of Fairfax and can be ordered by the Fairfax website or with CS as well. All right, from brands to prep types. So this is a topic where we tell all our clients to ask their medical professional what they prefer. So let's start with the types of vials in the key. We have IUI, intrauterine insemination, ICI, intracervical insemination, ART, assisted reproductive procedure, IVF, in vitro fertilization, ICSI, intracytoplasmic sperm insemination. For IUI vials, these are the vials that are pre-washed with at least 10 million motile sperm. The seminal fluid was removed prior to the freezing process. So these vials are typically for those who don't have the capability of washing sperm. For example, sometimes midwives or other medical professionals that don't have the capability of washing sperm, this will be a preference for them, as well as some other clinics will also prefer this vial. ICI vials are not washed, so they do at least still have 10 million motile sperm. The seminal fluid was not removed prior to the freezing process. So if clinics have the capability of washing the specimen, they can request these vials. These vials can also be used for home inseminations. So if you see on the right-hand side, it says home insemination. This is a process that some states have their own rules. So if, depending on what state you live in, you can call CS and they will let you know if we can do a home insemination for you. We basically will provide a needleless syringe and thawing instructions. So you will inject into the vagina only, not through the cervix. So basically the vagina serves as like a natural wash. So you can use an ICI vial. All right, next we have ART vials. Let's see. ART vials are either IUI or ICI and have at least 6 million motile sperm. We started making these vials because for IVF and ICSI. So for IVF clinics, because they don't need or require as much sperm and can use either type, or even the IUI or ICI vials are also okay as well. So if you look in the top right, the in-office insemination, you can use any of these vials as long as the clinic can wash the ICIs. Because the catheter will go through the cervix and directly into the uterus. So it's important to make sure that the vial is washed. Again, we definitely recommend talking to your medical professional. Like I said, they will give you their preference, and then you can call client services and see what vials they have available for that specific donor you like. All right. Donor products and information. So we have a lot of tools that can actually help narrow down your choices. We have free products and we have products for purchase. I highly recommend looking through all your free products. They're very helpful. Like we could start off with childhood photos. So basically, childhood photo of the donor. The summary profile is a brief overview of the physical, medical history, family history, which includes 3 to 4 generations. So I say 4 generations because some of the donors actually have their own children, and that's considered the 4th generation. And it's approximately about 20% of our donors actually have their own children. Included with that is a religion, and this is where the updates for the non-ID to ID will be located. So if your donor you choose is non-ID, you can scroll all the way to the bottom, and if they have chosen, this is where you'll see if they've chosen to be non-ID to ID. All right, next is staff impressions. Basically, the staff is providing their impressions of the donor's physical appearance and personality. Donor essay, we provide them questions and the donors will answer in written form. Medical profile, this contains personal behaviors, sexual history, genetic history, ancestry, donor and family history. Genetic testing summary. Okay, so this will actually show you what tests the donors have done. Obviously, older donors don't have as many tests as the new ones. Genetic testing has definitely evolved over the years. So in January 2018, we started testing over 200 plus recessive diseases. Last year in January 2022, we started testing over 500 recessive diseases. If you are interested in genetics, I'm not a genetic counselor, but our genetic counselor, Suzanne Sides, has an amazing webinar on our blog and on YouTube. She recently updated it in, I believe, August and September. So if you are interested, I highly recommend you watch it. To add upon the free products, we have audio clips from the donor and staff. So this is basically less than a minute of the full interview. Face match, I will go on to our next slide after that. And then personal profiles. For products for purchase, personal profile is the extensive and detailed profile of what the summary profile is. So it's a lot lengthier and more detailed. The silhouette is a blacked out side profile. Adult photos. So we actually started making this a requirement, I believe like 3 years ago or so or more. We have about 50% of our donors who have adult photos. Lifetime series photos are optional. These are, childhood to adulthood. The full audio interview. So this is the lengthier version of the audio clip of the donor speaking. This is one of our most popular tools because you actually get to hear the donor's voice, and you can hear like their speech, their tone, their emotions when they're speaking. So it's actually very interesting to actually hear. I'll show you a little clip when we do the donor search. Last but not least, we have personality type. It's basically a test to see what type of personality they have, maybe if they're extrovert or introvert, etc. All right, so next. So here's the Fairfax face match. So this is actually a really fun tool to use, and it's for free. It's basically the technology. It'll compare two facial images shape of facial features to find a resemblance between the photo of you uploaded and the adult photos of our donors. So you can upload a picture, whether it's your partner, friend, or anyone you like, as long as it's clear. It doesn't recognize color, so you can actually input the eye and hair color. And I believe you can also add ancestry as well. Once it calculates, you will receive results based on high, medium, and low. So don't be alarmed if, not all of our faces are alike. So there might not be any high results, but, medium, low are popular categories. I'll show you where it is and where it's located when we do the donor search. But I do highly recommend. It's fun and free. All right, so our unlimited access packages, the ULAs. So this is basically what I was talking about with all the free profiles, items, and all the ones for purchase. So if you purchase, you'll have unlimited access for 90 days to view all donor products for any donor. There are 4 levels of access. So if you can see on the right-hand side, you'll see what the free items are, the basic access, the full access, and then also you see Club Fairfax. I know it looks like it's a really high price, but it's actually very beneficial and you get a lot of perks added onto that. So the benefit of being Club Fairfax is you'll receive all the full access plus 2 free shipping. So right there is a huge saving because normally each shipping is approximately $290 to $360 each. So that's just for each shipment. Over the next 12 months, if you buy 5 files, you can get the 6th free. Also, you get to know the new donors 7 days before the public does. So that's pretty cool. We have Doreen. If you have any questions, she'll be able to help you answer that. Hopefully I said that correctly. But yeah, at the end, if you have any questions about it, Doreen would be happy to help. All right. All right. So now I'm going to do a little bit of demonstration for the donor search so I can show you how to maneuver around and get information. So bear with me for a second. Okay. Hope everyone can see my screen. Okay. So this is
It looks
the
good.
main. Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, this is the main page. So if you are in the US, here's our different drop box of the US if you want Spanish, or like maybe if you're in the UK, you would want to change the specific website for where you're located. So we're going to do US today, and then you're going to go to the second option where it says donor search. Okay, so this is actually the main page right here, and it'll give you 4 options of what you can choose from. So we'll start with the basic search. All right. So here is where you'll see donor categories. This is where the non-ID to ID, or non-ID and ID, the height, ancestry, hair color, eye color, education. If you want an adult photo, and the different specimen types. Then you click on advanced search. This will give you the donor brand codes, ethnic background, skin tone, hair type. For ethnic background, I'm actually half Filipino, so I was just going to use this example so I can break down the different profiles that will pop up. Go into here. All right, and so we did hair type, CMV status. Okay, so this is a topic that we definitely tell you to ask your medical professional on their opinion, because the fact that there's so many different reviews. Some say yes, some say no. So we definitely tell you to go talk to your medical professional about this. CMV, when you see a donor that shows up as positive, the sperm donor listed as CMV positive, also known as CMV, the IgG, it just means that they have been exposed and carry a protective antibody. They do not have an active infection. We do not sell vials with active infection in the specimen. If the donor is CMV IgG or CMV NAT, we actually also do an extraction of DNA from the semen sample to make sure that there's no active infection as well, and that's the CMV NAT. If either or both of those are positive, that means there's an active infection. We will discard all those vials and defer the donor. About 75% of our donors are CMV positive, but again, on the website, if they are positive, it does not mean that they have an active infection. All right, so we go added extras. You have age range, positive pregnancy, blood type, RH factor. Some medical professionals have their opinion of the blood type and RH factor, so also ask their opinion on that. Genetic testing. So genetic testing, this is where you will see if they've had an expanded panel done, if they're negative. You can always click on that, or if you do see other donors, it will pop up on their profile to see and let you know what panels they have done. And if you want someone that's a negative for all the expanded panel, it's very rare. So I think it's like maybe 10% of our donors have a negative expanded panel. And that is based off, I believe, the 280 plus recessive diseases. If you do know that you are a carrier for something, then you can always select by genetic disease, and a whole bunch of items are going to come up, and you can scroll to see if you have anything related onto our list. If you don't know what disease you have, but you know what the gene is, you can also click on that as well, and then a whole list will come up. I'm just going to press any on here for now. And so for lifestyle search, this is just, a little bit fun stuff, the astrological sign, favorite subject, religion, favorite pet, personal goals and talents and hobbies. So with all that, you can, minimize your choices. This is right here where you see Fairfax Face Match. You can go and choose your ancestry, eye color, hair color, and then you can also download your photo, press search, and it'll match up to whatever the photo you downloaded. So I'm just going to press search for now. As I mentioned, I just chose the ethnic background of Filipino to narrow down our examples. Okay, so it popped up as 4 exact matches. Sometimes it'll be partial matches. I'm going to just go with our first choice right here, 6251. He's an ID donor. His background is actually very similar to mine. So I'm going to go ahead and choose this. All right. So if you can see, the donor right here on the very top says added bonus. This donor has expanded genetic testing. And so once we get to the profile items on the right, you'll see what genetic testing has been done. And then so you'll see the overview of the donor. Here is also, his height and weight, and here's a basic summary of all of his choices and different characteristics that you could have chosen. And then so on the right-hand side here is free items, and then you have the ones for purchase. So if you click on the summary profile, you'll be able to download. And right here, it will pop up all of, the physical, medical. He has a large family, so if you keep scrolling all the way down, looks like he has his own son. And at the very bottom, updates to profile. So this is where you would find an example of the non-ID to ID donor. This donor is an ID, so this doesn't pertain to him, but this is where you would see an update. Okay. Here's staff impressions. You'll pull up and it'll see physical and personality. The donor essay, here's a few of the questions that, they'll write down for us. And then we'll play a little audio clip. So this is the one that's like less than a minute. It's the short version of what you would be able to purchase as far as the full audio interview right here. So listen to that.
Donor 6251 tells us if he's a creative person.
Yes. Whenever there's a problem, I always look for multiple solutions. Whenever you don't have the right tool, you make it work.
So that's pretty interesting to hear a little bit of some. And then you have the staff impression of
Donor 6251, abundant charisma and kind nature, make conversations with him very pleasant. He is a very...
So you get a little just idea of what you can hear for free. The medical profile, you'll be able to download as well. Here is the genetic testing summary. So you can download and come here. It's a PDF form. So you can actually print this out and bring it to your medical professional if they are interested in seeing this. So, and you can see that he has a few carriers, and here is the long form, and it'll go all in detail, so it gives you the full report. And this way you can see on the left-hand side is what he's positive for, and then all the rest of the genes he's negative for. And it'll give you the long list of all the testing that he's done. So it looks like this donor has done, I want to say it was the 280 and above. So let's click here. The acknowledgement of genetic risk. So since he is a carrier for certain recessive diseases, he will have, which is basically a disclosure for you to read over. And if you really want this donor, then you would do your initials here and then sign off. And so once you've completed this form, you can move forward in ordering. Okay, so scrolling down, like I said, here are all the items for purchase. You would have to add it into your cart. Or again, if you want to choose the basic access, full access with Club Fairfax, you can also order the plans here as well. And then you can also see if vials are available. He looks like he currently has IUI, ICI. If he does have ART vials, it'll also show there. And sometimes it'll have like a little call symbol. So if that shows up, then you'll have to call client services to see his availability. All right, so that's it for right now. Let me go back to, let's see. All right, so I'm going to go back to the presentation. And bear with me here. Okay, so once you've done your ordering, you've done your procedure, you've done, you're pregnant, you reported your birth. This is what comes down the line when your adult child turns 18. So this is an exciting process, especially for your children when they turn 18, if you do choose an ID donor. So this is the donor conceived person DCP process. Once your child turns 18, they will contact us directly. And maybe they will request if they need the certain form. They can also go onto the website and do a DocuSign, but we will require an ID, birth certificate, or like a passport, some type of identification. Once we receive the form and the identification, we will confirm the birth information. And so if everything looks good, the birth was recorded properly, and we do confirm the child's name and information, we will reach out to the donor for the preferred method of contact. So we do this as a courtesy to the donor. Sometimes they want specific contact information to be given out instead of, maybe they want email instead of, having their address. So if they do respond to us back in a allotted time frame, we will provide the DCP the name, the date of birth, and the preferred method of contact. If for some reason we don't get a hold of the donor, we will still provide the DCP after the allotted time frame, the name, date of birth, and all of the contact information we have on the donor. So this actually ties in as well. This goes in with the family limits. So it's very, very important to report your births. Fairfax will stop distribution to new clients when there are 25 families. So the 25 families, this is within the reporting system in the US. So if you have 2 children from the same donor, that would still be considered one family. So we also distribute globally, but we also follow all the local international regulations. For example, the UK, instead of 25 families, they're strict with 10 families. So it's very important to report your pregnancies and births. Historical concern about consanguinity and half-sibling couples. This is a big, this is a big role that, disclosure plays a big role. So we do strongly recommend disclosing to your children. We do abide by the ASRM guidelines, American Society of Reproductive Medicine. We do abide by their guidelines of population as well. Okay, next. We have resources. So our Fairfax blog, you can go into our resource section of our website. We have testimonials, old webinars, bloggers, information, etc. The Fairfax newsletter. We have, if you subscribe, we have promotions, giveaways from us, as well as like influencers, new donors, new testimonials, tips, and also we provide new updates. Fairfax Family Forum. This is a place where recipients and DCPs can connect. They can, go into forums with specific donors or general forums. The DCPs also have to be 18. And so this is an interesting area where you can communicate and connect with other families or donor conceived persons. All right, so if you're ready to start your journey, Client Services is amazing, and they are here to really help and assist you. Sometimes we might be extremely busy, we might have a busy month, but they will be there to help you every step of the way. You can contact the 800 number, or you can email the info@fairfaxcryobank.com. If you are international, you can always email the global@Fairfax Cryobank. Okay, so thank you for listening to me. It looks like we got a promo code, how to choose 2023. You'll save up to $149 on the full unlimited access, which is amazing. So I would highly recommend taking advantage of that. As I mentioned, there's lots of benefits. I'm going to have Doreen help me with the Q&A. We are medical professionals, but if you do have any questions of any type of medical questions, we'll be happy to get that answer from you by a medical professional. All right, that's it for me. Thank you so much for listening. And yes, we'll do our Q&A.
Wonderful, thank you all. Please go ahead and submit your questions in the webinar chat box. I do have a few that have been trickling in throughout our presentation. Someone wants to know, I bought 1 vial of IUI. Is that good for home insemination? I'm confused by in your presentation that it said you need 2 times our IUI vials for home.
So I did forget to mention about that. Thank you for bringing up that question. So if you have an ART vial, you can actually combine 2 ARTs for 1 procedure. So 1 ART is normally just for an IVF procedure, but you can also combine 2 ARTs for 1 procedure if you're doing it at home or for an IUI procedure.
Great. We do have someone who says they're from the UK and they searched for Caucasian IVF files, but it says none are available. Do you know when there may be some available?
So I can probably answer that. If you're looking for IVF specific vials, that's going to show limited availability on our website, whether you're in the UK or in the US or any other country. What you're going to want to look for is, or talk to your clinic first to see what preparation type they want to use for an IVF procedure. That tends to vary clinic to clinic. And that'll open the availability of what donors are available with that preparation type.
And then how many vials will I need for an IUI at the OBGYN?
So that I would just make sure you talk to your licensed medical professional as well about what you need. I think we generally recommend 4 vials purchased for a pregnancy attempt, since it does take multiple procedures sometimes to achieve a pregnancy.
Thanks. I need to let you know if I become pregnant via a non-ID donor if we don't want our child to know the ID of our donor?
Yes, we do recommend and require that pregnancies and births be reported to us. There's a variety of ways to report a pregnancy or birth. You can call us, Client Services, to report a pregnancy or birth. Paperwork is sent with every single order to your physician or to you to report that. And there's also like an online portal to report a pregnancy or birth on our website. That's not information that we release, and that is used to verify the ID birth registrations, but it's not a how do I say that? It's separate. So that's just information that we do require.
Another question about the type of vials. If you are doing IVF when you buy it, is it okay to buy ICI or IVF, or do you need to buy IVF?
You can choose either or, and then your doctor can also let you know if there's a certain preference that they like. But those two options, you can use any type of vial for IVF.
And then we are getting some questions about CMV, and if they could have someone explain that again.
Okay, I'll make it my notes here. So with CMV, I actually have it here, right here. So CMV, when you see it on our website, if it does show positive, then it doesn't mean that they have an active infection. It just simply means that they've been exposed in the past and carry protective antibodies. So if, for example, they do test positive for two other tests, which is an IgM and a CMV NAT, which I explained that the NAT is the extraction of DNA taken out from the semen sample, and if they find active infection in that semen sample, we will discard all of those vials. So CMV positive IgG is simply, again, mentioned, it's just being exposed in the past, so they don't have an active infection. It's kind of like having like a cold, and like, you know, how you have symptoms, but then, you know, down the line, you don't have that active infection anymore. Does that kind of make sense?
And then thoughts on purchasing a positive CMV vial if you're negative? I think it's up to your clinic, right?
Yes.
That's what someone wants to know.
Yes. Clinics, some clinics have really strong opinions on that. And we do always recommend confirming that you're choosing an appropriate donor before you ship anything out to your clinic. That way you're able to do a swap or return the vial as long as it's never left our facility.
Okay. And here's a question about availability of vials. If a donor is active but no vials are available, what are the chances that there will be more vials? Do you require in the contract for donors to commit to providing sperm for a certain amount of time?
Do you want to answer that, Doreen? Or
Sure, yeah, I can answer that. So it's going to depend on the donor if they're still actively participating in our program, whether or not we're expecting more vials to become available. They do, I believe, have to sign a contract with us for a minimum of 6 months. Correct me if I'm wrong, Christina.
Yeah. Yes.
To be in our program. Oftentimes donors do extend beyond that and continue donating. But if the donor is still actively participating in our program, yes, we would be expecting more vials. And the best way to check that is to check the website to see if there's any inventory listed on the website. Our donors do have notification lists that you can sign up to be notified by email once vials become available. Those lists are limited though, so it's possible that donor may have a full list. But you can check on the website or give client services a call if you have any questions about a specific donor.
To add on to that, basically donors, once they make a deposit, their vials have to be in quarantine for 180 days, and that's an FDA regulation. So once after the 180 days, we still have to do a physical and blood work in order for those to clear. But we also do additional monthly and every 3 months. So as long as that additional monthly or the 3 months clears, that the infectious disease comes back okay, then we can release those vials. So if for some reason infectious disease, if it's positive, we won't be able to release those vials. So it ultimately will, we have to wait for that period of time until vials can be released.
And then what about reactivation? We have someone who wants to know they bought a vial for their first child, and they want to know if they should if they can use the donor again for a second.
So we do have a reactivation program if there's no vials available for that donor. First, I would make sure that you do have, if there's any vials available for the donor on our website or by calling client services. If you do have a birth reported, we can offer the reactivation program. That's a program where the donor would, or the cryobank would reach out to the donor to request that they come back in specifically to make a donation for your own use. That's a long program, and it is a costly program. It starts around a little over $5,000 to start that program. And it depends on where the donor is in their life and it's situational. So we can't guarantee that the donor would be available to make a deposit or provide that for you, but we would start that search for you.
Can you talk about the sibling only availability for donors?
Yes. So some of our donors are marked as sibling only. That's if they have met their family limit, which I think Christina spoke about a little bit. But after that, the donors the vials are restricted to being purchased by clients who have a birth reported with that donor. That way we are limiting who's able to have that. Sometimes sibling use only donors are if they have a medical restriction. We limit that as well. But we do have sibling inventory if the donors met their family limit and still has vials available.
And then someone wants to know, when do donors become inactive? What is that kind of threshold for us?
So our family limit is there's 25 family units that can be created in the US. It's different for different countries as well, and dependent on where you're shipping, if you're shipping internationally. But the donor can either run out of vials if they haven't met that family limit and they're no longer active in the program. So that's a possibility. There's also donors that have inventory but have met that family limit, and so those are sibling use only donors.
Someone wants to know, so if we normally filter by ID donor, but we are not finding a donor, that doesn't make sense to remove the ID filter since we can scroll down to see if they switch later on?
We've definitely brought that up to management. So as of right now, this is what they've chosen to do, is keep them as non-ID. And then you can always call us to see if there's any change. There's only like a handful. I would probably say around, I think we're about 10, 12 donors who have changed. But as of right now, I think that's what they're kind of working on, to see if there's a different method of how we can track that.
So if we plan to use only one donor for multiple children, do you recommend buying several vials? Do you store them and ship them as we need?
Yes, that's definitely the best way to use that. And there's a couple ways to make that kind of forward thinking work best for you. For example, the Club Fairfax program, if you're purchasing multiple vials, you can purchase 5 vials and get the 6th vial for free. We do offer long-term storage at Fairfax Cryobank so that you are able to store vials with us indefinitely until you're ready to ship them. A benefit of storing vials at Fairfax is if you don't use them, you'd be able to sell them back to us as long as they have never left our facility. You'd receive 50% of the original purchase price back if you wanted to return those to us. For example, if you purchased 10 vials and you got pregnant twice after using 3 vials, that's just an example, but those 7 vials, as long as they aren't shipped out from our facility, those can be sold back to us so you can recoup some of the money. But that's definitely the best way to use that, we do recommend purchasing vials and planning ahead if you're thinking about having additional children in the future, because our donors do tend to sell very quickly, or they can sell very quickly. And if you want to make sure that you're using the same donor for a sibling, that's the best option, is purchasing ahead of time.
Yes, definitely. And then to add on to Doreen, is we have several different sites. We have actually 7 sites where you can actually store your vials at, and they would still be considered in the facility. So that would still count for the buyback program.
Correct.
And then can you talk about the cost of storing vials with us?
Sure, it's $45 per month if you do it month to month. We do have prepaid options ranging from 6 months to 10 years if you're trying to plan ahead. 1 year right now costs $435. We do also have discounts if you purchase multiple vials at one time. If you purchase 8 vials or more on one invoice, you'd get 2 years of free storage. 6 or more vials on one invoice, you'd get 1 year of free storage as well.
And then Doreen, do you offer any financial payment plans or financial assistance? We're going to have a couple questions about that.
Sure. So we do work with financing companies. They're on our website, as well as you can call client services to ask more about that. They're third-party financing companies, so you would apply directly with them, and those funds would be they would be communicating with us, the other company, the financing company, us and you. We'd all be communicating to make sure that we can assist you with that. We do have discount codes that can be used, such as the How to Choose 2023 can be used for orders. And every now and then we do run sales, but I would recommend checking our social media, following us on Facebook, Instagram, to make sure that you're notified, as well as our newsletter. Make sure you're notified about any of that.
We're getting a couple questions about shipping and the timeline for that, how quick things can be shipped out. Doreen?
We are able to ship very quickly. We have overnight shipping or 2 business day shipping. Shipments go out Monday through Friday. The cutoff for having the order ship out, the order needs to be placed before 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So planning ahead a little bit, if you're able to, is the best option for that, so we can make sure that your order arrives where it needs to go. But keep in mind, again, that we only have it arrive Monday through Friday, since that's generally shipping to a clinic. And different clinics do have different receiving hours. So that's a question for your licensed medical professional to make sure that it's arriving to your clinic when they are there to receive it.
And then what are the requirements for doing an at-home insemination? Do you need to consult with a doctor first before purchasing a sperm donation?
I do always recommend speaking with a physician or a licensed medical professional while you're doing your sperm donor journey. First of all, just because they likely have your medical history and can answer some questions specific about whether that donor is an appropriate fit for you. For shipping to a home address, we do require a consent form. That's dependent on where we would be shipping to. So please call client services to let us know if you're interested in home delivery or home insemination, and what city and state you'd be shipping to, so that we can make sure that you get the appropriate form. Some of those forms do need to be signed by a licensed medical professional to make sure that we can ship to a home address.
All right. The next question here says, I read somewhere that I'm sorry, I'm misreading this. I think I read somewhere that only you accept 1% of applicants. What are the reasons you haven't accepted someone?
Ooh, okay. So basically, we accept about 1 out of 200 initial applicants. It is actually a very difficult program to enter because there are so many different steps of becoming a donor. You start from recruiting to initial applicants, even if to see if your medical application gets approved. If it doesn't, you automatically reject it. And then if it does approve, then you go on to the screening process. I actually just did a donor screening and testing webinar a few months back. That explains the whole process of how a donor gets accepted into a program. It's very extraneous and a lot of detail. They also have to do 3 screens in order to pass, just to do the first initial approval. And they have to do an interview with the staff member, go over the medical application, etc. Then they go into the second portion before they get final approval, whereas the genetic testing, the infectious disease, the personal assessment, which is a psychological testing, we do physicals. It's a continuous program for donors. And it's, and when you see movies, they come in and they're like, oh, I want to donate. It doesn't happen like that. It actually can take about like 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks before a donor can get accepted into the program.
Someone said they missed information on ID versus non-ID. I was wondering if one of you could clarify that.
What was the question again?
ID versus non-ID donors.
Oh, okay. So the non-IDs are the donors that do not agree, based on their contract, they do not agree to release their identifying information to the donor conceived person. ID donors do agree to release their identifying information when the donor conceived person turns 18. And that's when we'll go through that whole process. So that's just the difference between those two.
And then another one wants to know, do we disclose if the donor is vaccinated against COVID-19?
We do not disclose that information. If that's something that is a concern, we definitely recommend calling client services. Because we don't disclose that information, we are able to talk you through how to find out a donor that maybe donated prior to COVID-19 happened, prior to 2019 or 2020. But that's definitely something we can assist you with if that's something that's a concern for your search.
Yeah, so we definitely, during the screening process and when they are donors, we do follow the FDA and American Society of Reproductive Medicine screening recommendations. So we do we do questionnaires where we ask, if they've been exposed, if they do have symptoms, whether they have COVID or just a cold or, a flu or anything, we don't allow them to make a donation. So if they do have certain symptoms, we will do a COVID testing. And if they are positive, we'll defer the donor and they'll have to have another negative test before they can make additional deposits. But yeah, we actually do at least questionnaires at the time being, since, obviously we've all been going through the pandemic, so.
We have someone on the phone who is local to Houston and wants to know if they are able to do a local pickup to save on shipping fees.
Yes, they are. Did you say Houston? They're local to Houston?
Correct.
So the best way to utilize to save on that would be purchasing multiple vials and shipping them all at once to our Houston location or to whichever location you're closest to. Our inventory is stored in Fairfax, Virginia. So if you're in Fairfax, Virginia, or closer to the DC area and able to pick up there, this doesn't really matter as much. But if you're at one of our other facilities or closer to one of our other facilities, you'd be able to purchase vials and have them shipped to the Houston or Austin or Philadelphia or California location for storage there. That would be one shipping fee. And then you'd be able to pull the vials out one at a time if you wanted to do a pickup from that location. That way you aren't shipping individually and paying a shipping fee each time.
And can you go tell them where all of our locations are?
Yes, we have a location in Fairfax, Virginia, Austin, Texas, Houston, Texas, Roseville, Minnesota, Pasadena, California, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Am I missing one?
Miami,
Florida.
We have a question from someone who wants to know, are there donors who place additional bits to limits on their donation, or can this be requested? I'm in the US, but I prefer the European standards of limiting to 6 families. Do we still do exclusive donors?
We do not offer exclusive donors.
Okay. Let's see, I've got a lot of questions coming in still. Sorry, everyone. If you're doing IVF, when you buy it, I think we already did that one. We got a couple IVF vial questions. Here's another one. Which is more successful for IVF? Is it ICSI or IUI?
So if you're doing IVF, it's basically your medical professional. So what happens with ICSI is that you don't need as much sperm in a vial because they're going to inject it directly into the egg. So a lot of times it's just cost effective for you to get an ART vial. I know most medical professionals we've dealt with, they don't mind using ART vials. Like I said, it's more cost effective. If the donor doesn't have the ART vials, you can use regular ICI. And if they don't even have those, you can technically use IUI vials as well.
And then for home insemination, do you need to only buy 1 vial or more per cycle to try to get pregnant?
So you can use 1 vial per try. So if you are doing a home insemination and you are doing a one-time insemination, then 1 vial will suffice. So if you only have the option of getting ART ICI vials, then you can order 2 of those to combine as 1 vial.
Do you include guarantees for sperm counts per vial?
Yes, we have a quality standard for all of our vials. The quality standard is going to depend on the preparation type of the vial. The IUI or ICI vials, those we would have a 10 million total modal cell quality standard. The ART vials, the IUI or ICI ART, those would have 6 million total modal cells as a quality standard. So that means we would expect at least 6 million or at least 10 million, but it could be more than that.
Yeah.
All right, and I think we have time for one more question. All right, what makes this facility different compared to other cryobanks? Can you talk about some of the testing we do?
As far as infectious disease testing, as far as I know right now, we are the only ones that do HPV strain 16 and 18. We actually do a DNA extraction as well. That is, if you don't know, it's like for cervical cancer. So I know, as far as I know, Fairfax is the only one as of today that actually does that. I know there's other added benefits. Maybe Doreen can.
Yes, I think one of the biggest benefits is our intense screening that we do on all potential donors. As was previously mentioned, we do accept less than 1% of all potential donors into our donor program. Our client service team is well trained and very knowledgeable and able to assist you in a variety of ways, whether you have questions about purchasing, about a donor profile, about any of the informational products. You're able to order online. We also have phone reps available from 7 a.m. Eastern to 8 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, and hours on Saturday between 11:30 and 3:30 Eastern. So that we have a lot of time that we're available for you to call us, depending on where you're located and what the time you have available for us for that. We try to be very flexible. We are able to ship internationally as well, which I know a lot of other cryobanks can do too, but we are have a very good team that's able to handle international and domestic and local shipments.
All right, thank you. I know I mentioned we had a lot of questions come in today, some good ones that we were not able to get to, unfortunately. Christina, can you go back to the previous slide to show the client service contact information?
Sure.
So please contact client services. They have their phone number and email listed here. If you do have any questions that we were not able to have the time to get to today, they're definitely able to help. And thank you for coming. Thank you for attending, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great one.
Bye.
Bye.